Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another podcast episode here on Life with Coffee podcast. I know it's been a while since I've made a podcast, but here we are at it again. I've been trying other content, YouTube, tried a little bit of TikTok, but all I know is that I'm wanting to explore the content world, and maybe one of my goals is hopefully to have some income off of that as well in the future. But for now, just we're taking it day by day. I got the Preem in the house, Ralph the barber. We've been trying to set it up for a while, but schedules never seem to line up. And but I think we've been getting some topics simmering in our minds. So we're ready for that. You live too or no?
Yeah, I'm live. Actually, I'm live TikTok right now. I'm trying to figure out how to share this stuff, but I'm brand new to this crap. But yeah, we're live, bro. We're live.
Yeah, so we're at it again. Life with Coffee podcast. Got the banner up. Got all the studio sesh up here. So, God willing, there's some good topics to come out of it. I know that before. I feel like before my podcasts were in a different time and in a different in a different vibe. So now I feel like I have matured a little bit more mentally and where I'm at in life right now. So I want to do new episodes to where they're a little bit different, where they're a little bit more raw, having to do with real life and kind of go back to how I first started the podcasting world. Lately, I've been having a lot of thoughts and ideas in my mind. I'm wanting to get back into the podcasting world, into the podcasting atmosphere, and I want to kind of hit up how it is to this year I turned 32, and goddamn, and that it really got me in a spin, because I'm obviously getting older, and as I'm getting older, I'm like I'm so scared and I have a fear of wasting my time.
Yeah.
I have a fear of wasting opportunities and life moments. I have a fear of that because I feel like I did that in my 20s. In my 20s, I feel like I did pass away some opportunities for the fact of trying to be a certain person, trying to fit in a certain puzzle, that maybe a mold that other people had for me, just spiritual wise, as a son, parent wise. And now that I'm becoming a more mature man, I'm reevaluating my decisions a lot in my life. I'm reevaluating my decisions in my everyday life as a dad. I'm reevaluating my roles is what it is. And so I've kind of this year I've been saying this a lot to my family and friends that I'm in a identity crisis because I feel like I'm trying to understand who I am. And I think a lot of us, I don't know if you can relate to this, but a lot of us that are parents, dads, we, some of us or a lot of us can take pride in that. And sometimes, or a lot of times, we make that as our identity. But then once we start feeling less needed by the kids, or if you're a partner, you're a boyfriend, girlfriend, if you're married, if you start feeling less needed without your partner, without your kids, it starts playing a mental game of what is your value? What do you bring to the table, in a sense? What do you bring to life as a man? And that's kind of the stages I'm in right now, is I'm trying to understand my identity without being a dad. I love being a dad, and I felt like I took that persona in pretty personally, but I'm just really going through it lately. I dyed my hair, got some tattoos, and that's all like in a 1 week span that happened. And so I'm really trying to understand like who I am. That's why, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't done the podcasting too much, and now I'm kind of exploring YouTube and more video content. But I do feel like I have a purpose I do feel like I have some sort of doorway into the content world, content creation world, right?
Yeah, like you said, bro. I think what a lot of people are struggling with now is just like identity crisis, just because we're transitioning from what people tell us to be to what we're comfortable being of ourselves now. And when it comes to that, it's just like you said, and we've talked about it before. It's like, dude, I felt for so long that I had to fit the perspective of what my parents wanted me to be, what, you know, as a brother, as a boyfriend, and as a father. Like, a lot of that caved in, and I was just applying that pressure amongst myself to say, like, okay, this is what I need to be, and never really allowing myself for me to just be me. And now that I've come around these past like year and a half, or a good year now, that just dealing with stuff and taking some time to reflect and reanalyze everything, it's actually given me the ability to be an acceptance of like me being me without any remorse, and finding a way to where I can be me but not be so disrespectful about it.
Like
either.
unapologetic.
Yeah, unapologetically. So when it comes to that, I think like a lot of people are dealing with that in general. Maybe it was COVID. A lot of people had to sit down
That's what they
for
say.
too long to think too much, and it's kind of like made everybody think like, damn, like what is there to us if everything's just taken away from us?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what it was, and it kind of like disrupt a lot of things. Hasn't been the same since.
It hasn't.
And I feel like we're just rebuilding like from
confidence and
everything.
And, you know, and even like during that time, you know, social media really skyrocketed because that's all you could do during that time. You were just, you know, at that time TikTok was big, so people were exploring TikTok, and you know, I feel like social media has evolved to where, like Ralph was saying, COVID took over. Let's distance. Let's not be together. Let's put this sickness above gathering and above companionship. And don't get me wrong, it was, you know, some of it was for the good, but I don't think it was that necessary. So social media kind of stepped in and said, "Oh, you have to have space, but you still want to communicate. This is where we come in." And social media has just really disrupted that for, I would say, you know, humanity, or at least in the U.S.
Yeah.
At least in the U.S.
Yeah.
And now you see, like, you know, from what I hear a lot, it affected the dating world because, you know, people don't know how to communicate. It just, not even like, I want to stay away from that topic because we've had dating topics, but just in general, like your family, you go to a family gathering, a cookout, you know, you see someone on the phone the whole time. They don't get off it, man. Mm-hmm. You see, and those are the same ones that you text them and they take forever to reply. But when you're around, they're always on their phone. But you know, it's just you see things like that where these people can't get off your phone, and you know, we're all a subject or victim to it, where we're just on our phone all the time. We constantly check the time. We use it as our alarms. Like, it's really taken control of our lives, but it's taken so much control. We've allowed it to where it's disrupting us on how we communicate with one another. Yeah, it's disrupted us on how we parent. You know, like people don't know how to talk to their kids, but they can make a TikTok video with them, and then after the video, they everybody goes their own separate ways. You know. Yeah. Or, you know, they take a selfie. Oh, like, happy birthday to my youngest, my oldest. I love him so much, but in the house it's like quiet. They don't talk. And on social media, they're so in love with their kids or their partner, you know. And social media, being a parent, being a partner, where does your identity fall with that? How do you identify yourself if it's not without Facebook, if it's without Instagram and without TikTok? You put your phone down for a good 3 hours, mm-hmm. and you're gonna be bored. You're gonna have like the want to check your phone for some reason. Yeah, I think we all can relate to that.
Yeah, that's how I feel at work. I can't even like put my phone down because I'm just like I could be doing a million other things of just leaving my phone there, letting it to be charged, but like it gets to a point where sometimes you're on your phone while it's charging, and you're like, mm-hmm. You want to give it up, mm-hmm. just because you're so interested in what's going on or what you're trying to keep up with. It's just that's it. I think it's affected in that way where you're missing the now in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
enjoy the moment for
Yeah.
what it is, and like we blow past by each other of just being able to say, "Hey, how's it going? How's your day?" Open up the door with somebody or for somebody, and be like, "Hey, you know what? Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. How's your guys' day?" Instead, it's just like, "Oh, you're on your phone. Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever." And then you're ordering. Now you get to order everything online.
Yeah,
now.
dude,
so you don't
that's
even
so
get to
crazy,
go to the
dude.
store and socialize when you got curbside now. So it's like,
That's even worse. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you're right. Like you can, or even at that, like it brings it down to a minimal because you can now not only curbside, but you go to the drive-through, give them your code, and they already have your stuff ready.
Yeah, yeah.
Similar to curbside, and it's like, no, like we need to understand communication. We need to understand how important it is to communicate with another.
yeah,
And I'm telling you, I think I want to bring it back to the subject of identity. How you it's easy to lose yourself in this world.
Yeah.
It's easy to lose yourself not only in social media, but it's kind of drifted to one of the ideas that I've been battling with or contemplating with. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I feel like I did, but I have been struggling with. I've been a dad for a good portion of my life. Now that I'm getting older, I'm trying to understand who I am not without my kids, but without
Aside from that.
Yeah, aside from that's just a role that I play. That's just a role. That's not me. That's not Abraham. I feel like I want my kids to know who Abraham or AB is or who their daddy is. People say like, "Oh, I've been told you're just a provider, You're just a person that pays the bills." And I think is it Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle? Somebody said, no, Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart said that a woman, like, she has her beauty and she's loved unconditionally, but a man is loved conditionally on what he provides or what he offers.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he said like only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. Men have to come and bring something to it, and that's what I've been battling with. Is that besides paying the bills, besides little people that call me daddy, like who am I? What do I bring to the world? And some days, like I like being on social media. I like being on Facebook where I'll post something, my thoughts. And these days, I don't have much thoughts to post. I mean,
Aside from
if
all
we're
the
talking
crap.
about the other thoughts, no, I'm just kidding. But I don't have much thoughts to post, and then that kind of plays into me because I'm like, okay, so what am I if I can't make people laugh, or what am I if I can't make people engage?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Kind of like you were saying, like that engagement. I personally, I've kind of dived into my weaknesses and my strong points, and I'll be the first to admit that I like attention. Like I didn't used to like to say that, but I mean I think we all do it to a certain aspect. But I do. I thrive off attention. I thrive off engagement of someone else, whether it be like a toxic way or a positive way. But I do thrive off engagement.
I feel like a lot of people are trying to seek validation through that to see how much they could get, how much attention they get off of it, and it's more of their status now versus you being in person and being able to accomplish so much and just having to talk about it amongst the people that you know.
Yeah.
Now it's like, that doesn't matter. Now it's like, okay, I need to let the world know of all this stuff. And I feel like it's come to think like, what were to happen if we go off grid and there's no social media? There's like, go back to like no electricity days. It's like, damn, like makes you think, what are we without everything that's been privileged to us, whether it's social media,
For real, though.
whether it's a job, like going back to Pilgrim days, like you see how essential we could be to society.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
know a lot of us won't.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, it's like, I don't know. It's a real battle nowadays.
I've also been like, going like on the topic of identity and social media and all this. It does. I said I kind of want to stay away from dating, but it does have something to affect with the dating wise, and it's not even dating. I think let's call it like romantic relationships.
Yeah.
You, if you don't know how to communicate, like a lot of people will say, older people, you ask them what's the key to marriage, and they say communication is key. You see that it's a very cliche thing to say, but it's true though. Communication is key, and learning how to communicate with your partner, learning how to communicate with your kids, and I'll even take it a step further. Learning how to communicate with yourself,
Yeah.
is like something that definitely needs to happen. You need to understand like what it is, who you are. If you don't know how to communicate, it's so easy to lose yourself. It's so easy to lose what you have. You don't know how to communicate with your partner, you're going to lose him. You don't know how to communicate with your kids, you're going to lose them. I've kind of been battling that with my oldest. He's getting older, and to start off, like, he is kind of already quiet, but these days I'm trying to understand how I can relate to him, a 32-year-old man, to relate to a 12-year-old boy. And I think back at that age, like, okay, well, you know, that age I wish my dad would have talked to me more, or, you know, would have guided me. And there's no book for this, you know, there's no book for the fatherhood aspect, or there's no book for how it is to be a young parent, or get married young, or be in a long-term relationship young. You know, you give yourself you give so much energy to your kids, you give so much energy in a romantic relationship for so many years that you end up losing your identity.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to talk about, like the identity part, because I feel like a lot of people lose themselves right away. It's so easy to lose yourself you get caught up in college, you get caught up with your job. And I got a friend that he just started like a little side hustle selling coffee. Shout out to Dad. Let me check. His dad's cold brew, I think. Let me double check that. But let me see. Yeah, so shout out to Dad's cold brew coffee. My boy Jesse, you know, he started, you know, we were talking the other day, and he started his own like little side hustle, you know, selling cold brew coffee. Yeah. On the side, he's also a full-time radiologist, something like that. Forgive me if I didn't say that right, but and then full-time dad. You know, you can really lose who you are. You can really lose yourself in that. Yeah. You know, you can really lose like what it means, what's your worth. You know, you can really lose what purpose you bring.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, what do you do, man? Like, as you get older, like right now I'm facing that. I'm 32 years old, and I feel like, man, like, who am I without the dad role? Who am I without the partner role, the marriage or the romantic part of it? Who am I without that person?
Yeah. The one thing that helped me out the most, more than anything, so I really took the time to kind of like just sit back and reflect on every choice that I've made, and kind of understand like what I really wanted to do. And once I got a sense of idea of what I kind of wanted to do, it doesn't mean like, oh, I have to have this job, or I have to do this in specific, but kind of in a general sense of like, I do like helping people. To what extent can I do that? Mm-hmm. It could be a specific job, it could be an organization, it could just be on my free time. And doing that kind of give you that direction to go to. Mm-hmm. But when it came for me, it's just like, man, I reflected on a lot of the things that I did wrong.
Like in your younger years? Or?
Yeah, like in my younger years. Everything that I did wrong, to figure out, you know, what I could do right in the future, and kind of give me like, okay, that's not who I was, but this is who I want to be.
You know, like me and you have been talking, and some of our talks, me and the Preem, you know, if you didn't notice if you haven't seen the previous episode of this podcast, we did talk about how we grew up a little bit more in the religious side, or, you know, in church. And, you know, me and him can relate, and I'm sure many others out there can relate, or just in general, take out religion, take out church, but just in general, you got parents that put a mold that you got to fit. You know, and if you are religious, you got the religious aspect or the spiritual side where you got to fit a certain mold. And then you become a dad, or you become a partner, and you got to fit a certain mold, a loving partner, a loving man that does so much, that provides and you know, does random dates, and works a 14-hour shift still, and you can easily lose yourself within that. And I think I just feel like there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with identity. You open up Facebook, you open up social media, and right away you hear somebody talking about, my anxiety, my depression. I feel like we're not doing enough to try to find our purpose, or to try to find, or try to not numb it, but cure that. How do you cure like the depression and the anxiety? Is because I think I've said this before in the post. If you're feeling that depression, or you're feeling anxiety, it's because maybe God, the universe, whatever you want to believe, maybe you're called for a higher purpose, and if you're not following that, you're not in sync. And if you are, maybe you'll get that deja vu. I always have that theory that if you have a deja vu, like that means like it's a checkpoint of life. You're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
But if you haven't had a deja vu in a while, maybe you're not.
What the hell are you even doing?
But yeah, I'm just trying to understand, like right now in my life, I'm trying to understand like what the purpose is. Who am I besides being a dad? Who am I besides being, it really takes a toll. And there's a lot of men that feel like this. A lot of men that feel like all they do is provide, all they're good at, like all the kids only want, not so much like that, but they only want that for their money, or what can dad buy for me? Partners, oh, my man makes this much and he has a car and he buys me this and he takes me out and does trips, and without that, as a man, you're almost seen as nothing,
Yeah. But I feel like there's no way of getting away from that either.
No, definitely not.
At the same time, it's what builds us as well.
It does, yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, how do we use that to find ourselves? Because it's so easy to get lost in, all right, well, I just got to work 14 hours a day. You see so many men, dude, like I've made this comment to my kid's mom, to Daniela, before, and I'm like, now I understand why like men back then would go to the bars and just drink all day. And come home and hit their wives. But I know now I understand why. For real, why they call it the wife beater. Now I understand why men, back then they would just drink or smoke all day. That's all they did. Like right after work, they go straight to the bar. You'd find them at the bar. They come home drunk. And I think it's because, man, you could really get lost in doing what you're told to do, and doing what society expects you to do.
Yeah.
And we've talked about people that we know, they're so scared to come out of their shell. They're probably already at a mature age, but they don't allow themselves to have fun, or they won't allow themselves to be a certain person in front of certain people. Man, that's so easy to lose yourself, man. You can see people just holding back who they truly are. And I think that's sad. I think it's sad. Like, we only have one life to live, and that's what I'm saying. I get fearful. I get scared.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I think the reason why it's so hard to find the identity, because it means that you have to confront so many things you're so like scared of.
That's true.
So when it comes to it, it's like you're quick to be like, nah, like I'd rather choose the easy way out than having to admit, the guilt that I've been having all this time. Or for
people to have that shame on me.
Exactly. And I think like confrontation is probably one of the hardest things to deal with, especially it's coming from within, because our identity comes from within, obviously. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to dealing with that, now you're like, I have to start battling some demons that you got in there.
Yeah.
Dealing with that is not easy at all. It's not easy at all.
Like when I got my tattoos, my parents have always said to not get tattoos, either because of the religious aspect, or because I don't know, maybe they just also because of the Hispanic heritage, they don't like nobody getting tattoos as well. But my comment I made to them was like, hey guys, I know I've disappointed you before. I'm about to disappoint you again. I just showed them my tattoos, but I feel like I'm wanting to embrace that, to be real, to be raw, to be genuine, to be transparent. Like, if you're gonna love me, you're gonna love me for me. If you're gonna be involved in my life, you're gonna be involved because you know who I am. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, like, I play around so much. I think that's why I use humor, especially on my Facebook posts. I use, like, they call it, the word is polarizing, where you know, I'll say a subject that's gonna definitely cause people to have their different views. You know, the light shines and it reflects in different ways, and that's how I feel. I view myself as I'm polarizing, where some of the things I say makes you rethink it, or makes you rethink how you feel about me.
Yeah.
But it's because I want to put. They say put your best foot out there, but I want to put my worst foot. That way they know what they're dealing with up front.
Yeah.
And there is no hiding. There is no, like, you know, shame. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm exploring that, and I'm trying to be real, you know. I'm trying to be real with come to terms with who I am.
Be authentic.
Yeah, be authentic. And you know, going back to the dad subject, like, I'm also trying to explore, like, what is it that I like? You know, besides being a dad, besides loving my kids. I mean, it's cool and all to love your kids. Nobody's saying that's a bad thing, but you know, you have kids, and it's so easy to take them to practice. You know, be all about them. But what about when they grow up? You know, sometimes kids are the only things that keep a relationship together romantically.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, what about when the kids grow up? Who are you without them? And I feel like a lot of moms can also relate to that too. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were saying, you know, something similar. They were saying that, you know, they, in the early years, they had kids in their 20s. And in their early years, they devoted their time, like their identity did become the mom identity. Mm-hmm. This person had 3+ kids in a matter of, by the time she was 26, 27. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of kids.
Yeah, bro.
And this person was feeling like, you know, not so much regret, but in a sense, the emotions that come with regret. She was feeling like, okay, well, what did I do with my life? What did I account for? Yeah. Now that my kids are a little bit older, like, what do I have to offer? Yeah. And I was kind of reassuring her, because you know, personally, I've seen, I can talk from experience that, you know, being a stay-at-home dad or mom, it takes a lot. It takes a lot, you know. And if you have that dynamic in your relationship, you know, your romantic relationship, if your man or your woman is the breadwinner and you're the one that stays home to watch the kids, that takes a toll. You know, you have to clean the house, you have to clean after them, and if you have kids, and if they're good, great, you got lucky. But if they're like any other regular kid, they're gonna make a mess. They're gonna break stuff. They're gonna
test your patience.
Yeah, they're gonna test your patience, and you know, the way that you know a home has kids is it's gonna be a little bit out of hand. Like, nothing's gonna be nice and tidy, and the ones that are nice and tidy are because those people, they have money and they can afford to pay someone to constantly clean every single day. But yeah, you know, back to the subject, this person was just kind of feeling, you know, maybe emotions of not regret, but just kind of recapping on her life and trying to understand, now that her kids are older, who is she without them, you know. And I think a lot of people similar to her thrive off the feeling of being needed, like as a dad or as a mom.
Yeah. And
I think that's where grandparents come in. Like, they feel, I'm bored, you know, like, I already lived my life. My kids are already grown. Like, okay, I'm a grandma now. I'm a grandpa now. Like, what do I do? There's people that say, like, oh, you know, they're real proud of not having kids. You know, I'm 30 years old, haven't had a kid. 28 years old, don't have a kid. And that's good and all, but it's like, I feel that kids do still, even though you can lose their identity, they bring purpose to a person's life, because you mature through it. You learn about yourself. You learn, okay, I didn't know that, you know, I didn't have this much patience. Like you said, they test your patience. You learn how to communicate with the little person, how to communicate with emotions, and you feel bad when you get mad at them, or, you know, and that teaches you patience. That teaches you kindness or love. Maybe some of us didn't grow up with like a good picture of love.
Yeah.
Teaches you how to love them, you know.
It's kind of different for me, because in my personal issue, or not issue, but like in my, I don't even say situation, but I guess, yeah, in my situation, it's like I co-parent. Mm-hmm. It's completely different from the norm out there.
Yeah, so yeah.
Like everything that you're saying is true, but it's like, it's kind of hard to relate at the same time, because like I don't have my kids. Like, I on a constant basis to be like, damn, like I identify myself as a father to be
Oh, I see
dealing
what
with
you're
that
saying.
issue. But
So then how does that role play then? Because obviously, like I said, like on my end, you know, co-parenting, you get less time with them in a sense.
yeah.
So
I think I fight with not having that identity as a father. It's like,
ain't
since
that
they're-
that's what I was saying. Like it's a
Yeah.
balance, you know.
Yeah, so it's like I only get them like I have them like 10, maybe 15% of the time. They live 5 hours away, so it's not as easy for me to go and see them in a day and be there all day and then come back home. Like you're talking about a 10-hour drive in one day. That's
Yeah.
basically going to work and then just coming back home. But I fight with that identity more so from within, is because, man, like they're so far away. I'm not, I don't get to interact with them as much. Like the most interaction I get throughout the day is through the phone, and that's having to call them like almost every single day to see if I could talk to them, see what they're doing, what's going on.
And it's even tougher that you call them and it's not the same. They don't listen over the phone. They're like playing with the toy and like, hey dad, did you know this? And you're trying to have like that connection.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of like what we're talking about social media. Like you can't have that connection just over the phone or just over texting.
Yeah.
Like it takes, like you said, being there,
Yeah.
like being in the moment. That's what it takes to have that connection a
Yeah.
lot of the times.
And that's what I don't have with them. But when I do, don't get me wrong, like they do sense how much I love them. They don't hesitate to call me dad. Like every
Yeah.
time I call them, like they're excited about it. But at the same time, it's kind of hard dealing with it because like I'm not present. Like for the things I would love to be there, for the most part, I just can't just say, hey, you know what? Forget my job for today. I'm gonna go over there, be with them, and then
Yeah.
come back. It's like me being a barber, a day would cost me a day's worth of money, like any other job. So it's
Yeah.
like I can't lose out on that either.
Yeah.
So when it comes to it, I guess that's a lot of the things that people don't understand as co-parenting. Like as much as you get, the freedom to do this, and that, there's also things you have to deal with on that aspect as
Like
well.
losing those little
Losing-
moments.
Yeah, losing
and-
those little moments. And you would never think that, like, you getting to fall in love with somebody, that them living in a completely different town would affect you that much, till you reach to the point where it's like, okay, I dated this girl. We've been on and off for like the longest time, and we're just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the relationship, not understanding that if we separate, she's going back to her hometown, I'm going back to mine, and now we're co-parenting at a 5-hour distance. Those are things you don't really take into consideration of dating a person that lives that far away from you, and never anticipating, like, not that you would expect it to, but anticipating in a dating aspect. It's like, okay, if I get with this girl, like, what do I see worst case scenario?
Mhm.
And this case scenario would be like, damn, like, now I'm co-parenting 5 hours away, because that's her life over there and this is my life over here.
Yeah.
She has her family over there and I have my family over here. So it makes it really tough. And I think it's not something I would advocate at all. Like if you could make it work, and if you could, dig down deep to say, hey, you know what, like, would you want to go that route? I think you'd have to do a lot of like reflecting on that decision to see exactly, like, is it really what you wanted? Because I could honestly say, like,
Well, it's like they say, it's cheaper to keep her. Cheaper to keep her.
I could honestly say, like looking at everything, like looking back on everything that like we've been through and whatnot, even though that, it's not something I am fond of or something that I'd advocate for, it's just one of those relationships that was genuinely like the longer we were to be together, the harder it was going to be for us to work things out.
Yeah.
So it was like a ticking time bomb. for
Well,
it to-
so do you feel like being young had a part to do with that?
Oh,
like
yeah.
not having the maturity on both ends,
Yeah.
yours and hers. But
Yeah.
we're talking here, me and you. So, and from a man's aspect, from your aspect, like did maybe your immature decisions or your immature mind, like did that have a part to play in that? And or do you feel like also back to the kids as well? Do you feel like you were saying, okay, I don't have that dad identity or the full-time father identity. So then how does that play in your mind as far as identity wise? Like, do you feel lost? You know, or do you feel more like, I would assume that it gives you more time to be in tune with what you really want. But at the
Yeah.
same time, your heart's being ripped apart because you're like, okay, yeah, I can do what I want,
Yeah.
but I also want them.
Yeah.
You know, like I want this together, and so that's why I'm trying to understand that aspect of it.
Man, yeah. I mean, it is a lot to deal with. Like I don't like dealing with it, honestly. I hate having to be in a situation like this. But God only knows why things happen. So when this really took into effect, like a good 2 years now, maybe pushing like 3, everything flipped like upside down. And it's like, okay. And man,
So
it's
does that go back to identity? Like, did you identify yourself in this relationship? And then so when that got lost, you got lost. You know what I mean?
It's crazy you're asking me all these questions because now I just don't know. Yeah. Like a lot of these questions, like
Ask me off camera. What the fuck you
It's-
doing, fool? Why you asking all this? Like, I wasn't ready for this shit.
I wouldn't say I've always was like losing. I would just lose my identity trying to be the person they wanted me to be.
Like your partner.
But at the same time, it's like I had like a stubborn mindset of just like wanting to go about things.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I had to be this identity, I had to be, I guess, in like take action of stubbornness and like ruin it.
Like flip it the other way.
Yeah.
Like you, whatever they expected, you would do the opposite. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah, I lost myself because in a relationship, I felt like, and it's nothing bad against her, but I felt so compelled of being what she wanted me to be instead of being what I needed to be for her. So it's like if this meant to be being a little more upfront and genuine about things instead of just being like, okay, you know, I'm just gonna go along with it and lie and eventually get caught up with some mess or whatever, then it would be like, oh crap, now I have to deal with the consequences of it. And then, man, dude, I'm losing
Well, see,
track of
that's what I was saying earlier. Like, if if you don't know who you are, your identity, it's gonna overflow or it's gonna show in every aspect of your life. And especially as a man, because as a man, you have to provide. You have to be the not breadwinner, but you have to be the protector. You have to be the men are expected to know, basically, like for example, where to go eat. Right? Women never know where to go eat. Right? But just a small example, like we're expected to lead and know what to do and how to handle situations, and as a man should, right? But at the same time, that's where I was kind of saying where I like to put my best foot forward or my worst foot forward, where this is gonna be me. And I'm kind of like what you're saying, or how you were saying that if this person expected you to do this, you would go the opposite. I'm kind of like that, where I'm showing you this bad side first. That way, if you decide to run or decide to move forward with it, that's all full blown discretion. Like you chose that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm stepping into that transparency or rawness in my life, where whoever is going to stick around is going to stick around, and whoever doesn't, they don't, or they didn't because they didn't like who I was. They didn't like who I really was.
Yeah.
And to know who you are, I think, is very important. To know your identity as a father, to know your identity as a partner is important, because if you don't know your goals, your kids are not going to know their goals.
Yeah.
Or they're going to grow up without direction in their life.
Yeah.
Or your romantic partner is going to continue a relationship where she don't know or he don't know where they stand. And that leads to miscommunication or non-communication.
Yeah.
Which leads to like the death of a relationship. So I do think it's important to know, everybody out there, word of encouragement, I think it's important to really understand, as we're speaking on this topic, to understand your identity, to find yourself. You know, it's okay to work long hours. It's okay to be a good mom and always be about them. it's okay to love your partner unconditionally, but I think personally, I think where it starts becoming bad is when all that you are is only that role. You got to remember those are roles that you're playing. You're playing a role of a dad. You're playing a role as a lover. You're playing a role as a customer service representative. But when you clock out, when the kids are asleep, when you're away from your partner, who are you then? What does the world see you as then? When your kids grow up, what are they going to say about their dad? He always liked this. He used to love this. He used to dance this way. He used to laugh at this. Like, who is that person? And that's who I'm trying to explore, because it's cool to like say, hey, let's go to the park. That's a dad thing to do. But while we're at the park, in those little moments, what are we talking about? What am I talking about with my kids? Or when you go out to eat with your partner, it's cool to provide and protect and buy her a new car or buy her a purse. But when you're shopping for that purse, what are you guys talking about? Who is that? What is that relationship built on? And are you showing the best foot forward? Are you showing the reality of who you are? Because if you can, then that's what I think you had mentioned earlier. If you got to kind of unravel yourself, especially if you have trauma. If you have trauma from your past, from your parents, from your childhood, something happened to you, you got to break that down. And that's where I said earlier, you have to communicate with yourself. Sometimes it takes looking at yourself in the mirror. Sometimes it takes doing the podcast and hearing your own words, or doing a YouTube video and seeing your own self on there. Sometimes it just takes looking at yourself through a different lens to say, okay, is that really what I sound like? Do I really sound that arrogant? Like sometimes I look at my Facebook posts and I'm like, it tells you a memory from a year ago, 2 years ago, and you're like, damn, maybe I didn't need to say that. Maybe I didn't need to do that. I was cringe, like, and like for example, I look at some of the old podcasts and I'm like, man, I really was at a different mindset in that podcast, and now I'm like, there's no need to think that way, like I'm maturing. But yeah, guys, I mean, if I can give like a word on that, like, who are you without the kids? Who are you without your partner? Who are you when you clock out of work? It's so easy to lose yourself. And I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one struggling with identity. I know I'm not the only one struggling with time. And time is you're losing time. Like, you see people, like, especially at my age, like, you're turning 32. You see people from high school and they look old as hell. And you're like, damn. And then you realize that we're not going to stay young forever. You look at your parents and they have a little bit more wrinkles than they did last year. Mm-hmm. Man, it's scary, dude. It's scary because you're going to get there at one point. And when you do become 50, 60, 70, what are you going to have to look back on? And if you did play these roles as a romantic partner, as a dad, did you do it the best that you could? Mm-hmm. Like, you have to think about stuff like that. Like, are your kids happy with that? If all you did along life is make other people miserable, what did you provide to this world? And as a man, like, I think a lot of men struggle with who am I and what I bring to the table. I've talked with a lot of friends that they're like, nah, man, I just gotta work. Like, we've gotta trabajar. That's it. And it's just pressed on you to be a man that works long hours, or you have to provide for your family. You have to have like 2 or 3 jobs. You just have to do that. But men are human too, and they have emotions too, and they have struggles too, and they have feelings, and they have a heart. And that's where, like, some, the Hispanic culture is like, don't cry, be a man, and you can't talk like that, and you look at, like, you talk with your friends, you talk with other people, and you especially in the Hispanic culture, nobody knows how to hug each other. Nobody knows how to say I love you. Yeah. Nobody knows how to show affection. I mean, maybe you don't always have to hear I love you, but you don't know how to be there for your son. You don't know how to be there. Just be there. The power of presence, like you were saying earlier, just the power of your presence, just being there, putting your phone down, just showing up matters.
Yeah.
I like when my kids last year they graduated from one of them from kinder or first, something like that. You go and you see, it's sad, but I saw like a few kids that they didn't have nobody show up for them.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, like I kind of wanted to cry. I'm like, I'll show up for you. I'll clap for you. Had I known that your parents were not even here, I would have clapped the hardest for you.
Yeah.
And it's sad because maybe those parents, maybe their only choice, like you said, they can't afford to lose a day of work. But at the same time, it's like, life's going to go by and you chose to go to work rather than go to a ceremony that meant something to them. Mm-hmm. Power of presence, man. Showing up, being there for anybody that you love. Your kids, your romantic partner, for yourself. Showing up as an identity. Showing up for yourself. Going to the gym. If you're trying to lose weight and you've let yourself go, you know, and become fat. Some people take on the identity of being fat. Oh, that if I lose this weight, who am I? I'm this big person. Everybody knows me as Big Joe, you know, or something like that, Fat Joe. Like, who are you without that identity? But you got to show up, man. You got to show up for yourself. You got to explore yourself. You got to unravel who it is inside you, like what you bring to the table, what makes you happy, what makes you angry, what's your weaknesses and your strong points. Do you believe in God? Do you not believe in God?
Yeah.
Do you like YouTube? Do you not like YouTube? Do you like podcasting? Like, it's just those things that you have to explore. So it's what brings color to your life. It brings color to the people around you. I'm exploring all these things. You know, when you work at a job that you don't like, you begin to let it simmer, let it cook, and you're trying to understand, okay, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. And sometimes I'll have these calls with customers, and they'll be like, you know what? Like, you sound like you got something in you. Like, don't settle for whatever they're paying you. You need to go out there, do more, start your business, or find a job that suits who you are. And it's these conversations with these customers that I get that also threw me into a spiral. Like, if a random stranger believes in me, I'm feeling this motivation from this random stranger that's across the nation. Like, maybe there is something. Maybe that is God talking to me. Maybe that is God calling me for a greater purpose. But I have been feeling that this year is that I do have a greater purpose. I don't know if it's content creation, but I do feel like it has to go somewhere where I do. This year I have a mindset change, and I want to be an inspiration, not only to my kids, not only to myself, not only to my partner. I want to be an inspiration to everybody around me. I'm kind of like tired of being dumb or tired of being the immature guy. Like, no, don't get me wrong. I still like being immature. I still like saying stupid shit, but I want to say it in a smart way. I want to be better. Yeah. I want to be better for myself. I want to be better for people around me. And I'm really like in a different mindset this year where I want to evolve. I want to do better. And sometimes I'll sit there and watch preachings of you know, pastors or preachers, you know, preaching pretty good. And I'm like, man, like, that's motivational. Like, it's addicting and it's contagious. That's another thing. I talked to a customer the other day, and he was like, one thing I can give you, or a piece of advice I can give you, just smile. Just be contagious to where you make somebody else feel good. And that got me thinking, bro. I'm like, man, I need to smile more. You know, I need to do more to where I don't want to be so polarizing all the time and make people argue. You know, I don't want to be polarizing where I'm the guy that always says stupid shit. You know, I want to be that type of inspiration. You know, and again, I want to just say to whoever's watching this podcast, like, you really got to figure yourself out. You really got to put work into you, and see who you are without these roles that you're playing in life. Who you are without your kids. Who you are when a lot of people don't know how to sit with their thoughts. They will be there and they'll like smoke a blunt, vape, go drink. They turn to all these alternatives and they do everything but sit in their thoughts and just understand who they are. Understand who they are when the world's quiet and dim. I think that's very important, to understand who you are. To sit with your thoughts and don't be afraid. You know, people right away want to run away from depression and anxiety, but let it sit there a little bit. Welcome the trials. Welcome the storm. And if you're a believer in God or spiritual, welcome the storm and just have faith that you know that there's a greater purpose for you. Have faith that you know that there's a God that's going to lead you through that storm. because I mean, we're all going through storms. We all have our own storms in some fashion, some way, one way or another. But that's another thing maybe that's the time for another podcast, but I've been implementing like how God is playing in my role or in my life, because as we've talked before, growing up, we grew up on a certain mold or certain expectation of how to worship God, of how to please God. And now I feel like I want to please God through my own lens, in my own way. I want to learn how to please God in the way that He wants me to please Him, not the way it's been preached to me, not the way it's been told to me or enforced in me. But I want to praise God, and I want to bring Him happiness and be a good son in a way that He sees fit. Because I don't think everybody, like the mold doesn't fit everybody. He calls everybody for a different purpose, a different reason. And that's another thing I'm exploring. Like I said, maybe that's the time for another podcast. But yeah, if I can end this here, I want to say just really try to seek out who you are. Try to seek out your identity. Don't let the troubles of this life dictate who you are. Don't let the bad moments the fights that you had with your partner, the times that you failed as a parent, don't let those be overwhelming of who it is that you are. Like, don't let that happen. You gotta explore yourself. Let yourself shine. Let it be, make those mistakes, make those failures, and learn from them, though. That's the main thing. Learn from what you're doing. Grow, be mature. But I'll end that there unless you have something to say. But I do want to say, as I was saying earlier, I'm exploring the content world. So go be a supporter. Like the YouTube page POVAB. That's my point of view, so that's why it's called POVAB. So I'm just there. It's about me and my life, me with the kids, and like vlogs almost weekly. So go ahead and go support me. Go like one of the videos, comment on one of them, and just let me know that you're there and that you like what I'm doing, right? So, but I don't know if you have anything to close with.
Yeah, I had this post that really stuck with me today. And I put it on my Instagram. It says, "Blessings are on their way to you, and when they arrive, you'll finally understand why certain doors had closed, why some paths felt so heavy. Every twist had a purpose. There's a divine design unfolding. Trust the timing. Your harvest season is near, and it will be more than worth the wait." And all that is just basically being patient and enduring the suffering, because I think as men, we thrive off of it. As much as it's hard to understand, we tend to be more optimal when it comes to suffering. So the more we endure that and understand that, the easier it'll get for us.
That's deep. That's deep, Shrek. For sure. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching this podcast or hearing the audio version of it. Hopefully, I can put that out. But we're gonna try to bring some more. I'm gonna try to be on it with this podcast again. And like I said, go comment on one of my videos and say, "Hey, I'm holding you accountable to the podcast next week," or whatever. I do want to start posting more content, but it takes time. So bear with me. Wish me luck. Wish me blessings on this content journey, on this this discovery of myself, this identity crisis that I'm going through. But yeah, I mean, hopefully everything, I'm just trying to let God play his play out the plan in my life, right? But all right, guys, again, thanks for tuning in, for watching this podcast, and we'll see you next time.